Hello and welcome to the Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, finally, at last, maybe we're getting
Maybe.
exactly, maybe we're getting to the point when there might be some kind of accountability, some kind of a reckoning with RussiaGate. I mean, this has been a really sore point for many, many years, really going all the way back to 2016. So that was 9 years that there's been no accountability.
How many hours do you think we've devoted to this over the years?
It's bad even to speculate. I mean,
Yeah. Well, and and
horrific.
having mentioned that and having interrupted you, my apologies, but it's because of the statute of limitations, George.
The statute of limitations, but the reason why the statute of limitations is now quite a serious problem is that nothing has been done all this time. I mean, there was a time when the statute of limitations hadn't expired, but now, I mean, it is a serious problem. And but what happened was that on Thursday, James Comey, the FBI director, and clearly one of the key architects of the RussiaGate hoax, the man who really did more than anyone else to bring it into existence and to make it very, very menacing. I mean, it destroyed people's lives. It bankrupted people. I mean, it's a
Why
horrific.
was there a special prosecutor?
Exactly. There was
Because of James Comey.
exactly because of James Comey. And so he was now, and it was a very, very tricky thing because he was indicted for lying to Congress. But this happened in 2020, so it was already long after the RussiaGate. That was long after he had been fired as FBI director, but he was testifying before the Senate, and the indictment has it that he lied to the Senate in his testimony. This was in September of 2020. So just September the 30th. September the 30th would have been the date that the statute of limitations would have expired. So really, it was just a few days left before it was just that brief window that they could actually do something about Comey. And of course, the only attempt at accountability was the disgraceful investigation by Durham, John Durham, who basically did a whitewash. I mean, he had absolutely no intention of getting to the bottom of what happened, and instead he brought these idiotic charges against this young Russian hustler, Igor Danchenko, and even that failed.
Yeah,
So that was the
and we
one.
have to remind everyone it failed because it was tried in the D.C.
It was
court.
yes, that was right. Yes, of course it was. Yes, but I mean, Durham wrote a report that there were some interesting things in that report,
And
but fundamentally there was no legal accountability for what
who
happened.
was the Democratic operative?
Yeah, I think it was named Sussman. I think it was named
Yeah,
Sussman.
there you go.
Yeah.
He walked too.
He
Why?
walked through
Because it
exactly.
was a D.C. court.
Exactly. That was again. He lied to the FBI because he went in like a good citizen, apparently alerting the FBI. Exactly.
A real
Alerting.
Cub Scout there, a
That's
real
right.
Cub
You
Scout.
know that. Well, I've got my suspicions that there's the Russians are communicating with Trump Tower. You know, we got this. And we're doing
Yeah,
this. Yeah.
and I'm not going to mention the fact that I'm working for the
Exactly. That
Clinton
he
campaign.
didn't mention he was working for the Hillary Clinton campaign, but nonetheless, you know, and that was apparently so somehow the FBI was the injured party according to Durham's theory of the case. He lied to the FBI. Well, oh, we didn't know that he was working for the Hillary
Oh,
Clinton.
but they were such sweet lies.
That's right. Yes. Wow. He didn't tell us this top lawyer, he was at Perkins Coie, this Democrat law firm. He didn't tell us he was working for Hillary Clinton.
It just, I don't want to, we can get into it later, but, Tucker's doing this 9/11 thing here. And it's really interesting. We have a thread go over the last 20 years that, and it's very pernicious, is that these CIA and FBI operatives, they're just not really smart. They were burned. Okay, we're supposed to feel. They make us feel sorry. That oh yeah, yeah, there was. Wow, we muffed it there. I mean,
Yeah.
geez.
Yeah, that's
Just
yeah,
missed that one by a mile.
that's
Oh,
right.
by the way, can you increase our budget, and let's have the Patriot Act,
Yes,
it all seems to work to the advantage of power. And oh, Joe Smith, he's just a 20-year veteran and he was, sidelined and he was tricked. Okay. They keep feeding this nonsense.
right.
Was the FBI lied to? Of course they were, and they wanted to be lied to
Exactly.
because they got that lie created a predicate.
Right.
Well, this guy came in his own volition. We had to
Right.
follow up on it. And
Exactly.
you're telling me that you weren't hoodwinked, you knowingly hoodwinked. It's BS. Okay.
Completely, because we know exactly how that the FBI knew that the Hillary Clinton campaign had launched this phony, fake, ridiculous story.
Brennan told Obama.
Exactly. Brennan told Obama, and instead of reprimanding the Hillary Clinton campaign for putting out this ludicrous story that Trump was colluding with the Russians, instead of that, they said, "Hey, that's a good idea. Why don't we use this? Why don't we make up this story of Trump-Russia collusion?" And they figured that they can just find enough circumstantial evidence, essentially, to hang Trump. That
Well, and plus Hillary was supposed to win.
Hillary was supposed to win, but this was their insurance policy just in case she doesn't win. And so they went. But the extraordinary thing is they went with this, and then they used this fake phony story to essentially take out FISA warrants against members of the Trump team, which was Carter Page. And of course, once you have a FISA warrant and you're spying on one person, then of course you're spying on everybody else. That was the key. That was how they pulled that off,
And
and they
then
kept
then if you
renewing that FISA warrant long after they knew that there was nothing to this whole RussiaGate hoax.
and if you couldn't get around the FISA, you just have British intelligence do it for you.
Exactly, exactly. So now let's think of what Comey, because of course the media are in a meltdown about Trump. Oh, Trump taking out revenge against his political enemies. He's abusing the justice system. Let's just remember what Comey did. Remember, he he destroyed the life essentially of Michael Flynn, a three-star general, one should say, three-star general, career military officer, a lieutenant. So he was a lieutenant general, about as senior as you can get in the U.S. military, um, head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, and he didn't do anything wrong. He
I'd like
spoke.
to interject, George, real quick. I think it's more. Flynn, well, the reason why he was such a danger to these people is that he knew how things worked. Okay, he knew how the bureaucracy worked. He understood how intelligence and counterintelligence. Because we know that when Trump was giving the daily briefing as president-elect. Flynn told him, he said, "We're being interrogated. They're not giving us
That's
information.
right.
They're getting
That's
information
right.
from us."
That's right.
And
That's
that's why he was such a danger because let's just say, George he is a really smart guy. He knows international relations and history very well. And, President-elect Peter Lavelle said, "Hey, George, you want to be my national security advisor?" And George said, "Of course, Mr. President-elect." We would both go into a briefing not knowing how they work. Okay.
right.
Flynn did.
Exactly.
And that's why they got rid of him.
That's exactly right. That was the remarkable thing because during the campaign, opposition candidates, both presidential candidates, get briefings from the administration. So the Clinton campaign got briefings, and the Trump campaign got briefings. And after this briefing, Flynn turned to I think it was the guy. I think his name was Gates. I think he was Manafort's number two on the
Yeah,
Trump
Gates.
campaign.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Gates. Yeah, and he said that was not a briefing. They were basically gathering intelligence about us. So right away he said, no, that was not a briefing. That they didn't provide us with information. They were trying to extract information from us. And you're absolutely right, Flynn knew. But what happened, as I think gagglers know, but it's worth just reminding people that Obama, in his last days in office, um, came out with that nonsensical story about the Russian interference in the 2016 election. We know. I mean, we now know from those from everything that Tulsi Gabbard released that that was a total lie. What he said when he announced this that Russia did this and this and this, and he expelled Russian diplomats from the United States and closed the diplomatic compound. You
No,
know,
stole them, stole them.
stole the diplomatic compound.
And also in the virtually the same breath from the former president is he lowered the threshold for people to um, um, have access to and for have access to disseminate information. Okay, so it was a witch hunt,
Yeah,
collect everything you possibly
yeah,
can,
yeah,
okay?
right.
And so when you lowered that threshold, so how many more thousand people had access to classified information?
Yeah, that's right.
And then what are you going to do with it? You're gonna just circulate it
Yeah,
and make money off of it. Make
exactly.
money. That's currency. That's a that's a
Use
that's
that's
a
right.
printing machine.
That's right. And make use of it in order to discredit the incoming Trump team. That's why
It was
he
probably
kept.
one of the most despicable things an outgoing president has ever done.
Yeah, exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
I can remember, Georgia can remember many occasions where they passed the baton. They're walking in the Rose Garden and all that. That's very important. Okay, but what Obama did is he had a dagger to Trump's back when he walked out,
Yeah,
and I don't know of any case where that it happened to that degree, at least in the 20th century to the present. I've never heard of anything
absolutely.
more despicable from a president.
Completely despicable because that's a huge, consequential charge that he leveled. Well, I think it was January the 9th or something. Was really was in the latter days of the administration. He leveled this charge against the Russians, discrediting obviously Trump's election victory, and then he took this punishment out on the Russians. So Flynn, the incoming national security advisor, spoke to Kislyev, the Russian ambassador, and all he said to him was, "Don't overreact." He didn't say don't retaliate. He didn't say, that don't expel American diplomats from Russia. He just said don't overreact. We're a new team. We're going to reconsider U.S. Russian relations. So just keep everything calm. And then this, of course, they were obviously eavesdropping. I mean, because they were eavesdropping on Kislyak as the Russian ambassador. And then they used that conversation to say to somehow suggest, oh, Flynn was running his own foreign policy. This is a violation of the Logan Act.
Logan Act.
I mean, he's the incoming national security advisor. He's talking to the Russian ambassador, kind of what you're supposed to do. Oh, that's a violation of the Logan Act.
And everyone, the the entirety of that conversation, which of course was recorded and disseminated, what Kislyak and Flynn talked about mostly was about Israel and the illegal settlements in the
Right.
West Bank. That was the primary topic. Flynn was basically saying, "Oh, and by
Right.
the way, before we go,
That's
don't
right.
overreact." But
Exactly.
they make it sound like, oh, this was some kind of deep collusion. Well, Flynn was on a line that was easily tapped, and shame on him for doing that.
Well,
Okay,
that was the thing. Well, he knew that. Look, I mean, he had to have known that
he
this.
had to have known. Okay,
I mean, he spoke on an open line to the Russian ambassador. He knows perfectly well that all of the conversations of the Russian ambassador that are on an open line, not on the encrypted lines, but on open line, the Russian ambassador's conversations are eavesdropped. So he had to have known that. But what then happened was, first of all, they stopped talking about the Logan Act, and then they leaked to the media this ridiculous story that somehow he had lied that he had somehow suggested that well, no, all right, let's go back a little bit. I'm sorry, a few years ago. What they had, this was the suspicion, this was the Logan Act. And Comey, this is where the Comey in his malevolence stepped in and sent a couple of FBI agents to discuss this
Peter
conversation with Flynn.
Strzok was one of them.
Exactly, Peter Strzok was one of them. Now Flynn, because he didn't think he had done anything wrong, he said, "Okay, fine." But he did say when Comey called him, he said, "Do I need to bring in a lawyer for this conversation?" In other words, is this something that's on the record? As are you that I need to bring in a lawyer? The White House lawyer should be present. So no, 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 don't bother him. I'm sure he's got a full plate. He's got enough to be getting on with. Okay, fine, come over. And then he has this conversation with the FBI with agents, who then put out the story that he had lied to them, which he didn't, because they had asked him, "Oh, did you discuss, that you were going to lift the sanctions?" And he said, "No, no, I didn't." But it is true. He didn't discuss the sanctions. All he discussed was the issue of the diplomats. So what he said was true, that, with Kislyak, he simply discussed the issue of the diplomats and said, "Don't overreact on this issue." But the sanctions, and then that was the story that David Ignatius ran with in the Washington Post, saying, "Oh, Trump lied to the FBI because he said that he hadn't discussed sanctions with Kislyak, when in fact he had discussed sanctions." He never discussed sanctions with Kislyak. That was not the subject of the conversation. So Flynn did not lie, but Comey, kind of because he's such a nasty, horrible, evil man, decided to bring criminal charges against Michael Flynn, and in fact threatened his son. He threatened Michael Flynn's son that he was going to bring charges against him as well.
Always remember, everyone, if the FBI knocks on your door, be prepared. They can lie through their teeth.
Absolutely.
You can't.
Yeah, yeah. It's quite an amazing thing, because I was always under the impression that they record conversations, so there is actually a recording. No, no, no. They just take notes.
What's they're called? There's a certain
They're called the 302s.
302s. Yeah.
Yeah. But that I thought that, you record it, so there's a record of the conversation. Otherwise, if you're gonna rely on Peter Strzok's notes,
And I think you're supposed to make up a 302 within a 72-hour period.
right? Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But my recollection is that the original 302 was never found.
Well, I'm
Strzok
sure they
reconstructed the
recollected.
302 later.
I'm sure I think we actually saw it. Okay.
But that was I think that what we saw was the reconstructed 302, not the original
Okay.
302.
Yeah. I'm sure they recollected very clearly, we're going to go jam this guy up. That was
Yeah,
what they.
yeah, yeah. And so this was I mean, Flynn lost his job as national
His
security,
livelihood, his
his
reputation.
lived his reputation,
He
and
lost his house.
yeah, because he couldn't get himself out of the legal imbroglio, which is exactly what Comey wanted to do. Because he wasn't a rich man. I mean, he's a
No.
retired army officer. He's not a man of huge wealth. Uh,
Oh, yeah, but he went. I was at the same dinner at the 15th anniversary of RT. I was there. Okay, I don't know why photographers didn't widen the angle because I was there. Okay, um, uh, but I remember he was with Jill Stein and was at the same table, and I don't remember the amount that he was paid for his
I think
junket
it was
there.
about 40,000.
It was peanuts
Yeah,
compared to what other people
yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And I think Turkey was involved in one case, some
Right,
kind.
but yeah, that's right. He did some
But
work.
as far as I know, all of that was declared.
Yes, yes.
There was no deception.
No, no. I mean, it was a speaking fee. Now, compared to, you want to really compare how much Hillary Clinton was paid for her speaking fees?
What
Uh,
Bill Clinton was
Bill
paid
Clinton's for his speaking fee.
cool half
He gets
million?
$1 million for a speaking fee. Um, when you get those kinds of things, you think, what kind of pearls of wisdom are you imparting to get $1 million?
Well, no, what you do is that, I really I really appreciate if you could call this guy on my behalf. That's what that is.
Of
Okay.
course,
That
of
that's
course.
influence peddling. That's all it is. Okay.
Exactly. exactly. That's exactly
And
what.
it's very bipartisan, everyone.
No, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what it is. It's influence betting precisely because they're not imparting anything other than banalities and platitudes, and they know it. So if they're paying this kind of money, they want something in return. No one hands out
Yeah,
money like that
and plus
without
Bill
something in
Clinton,
return.
plus Bill Clinton had a reason to get away from Hillary. Okay.
so, so, but that was what Comey. That's how Comey specialized. I mean, Comey just ruined people's lives. I mean, he did that to Martha Stewart. Now, Martha Stewart, of course, has had much more money than Michael Flynn ever did. But Martha Stewart went to prison, also under Comey's auspices because she lied to the FBI. So she was supposedly facing charges of insider trading. Comey couldn't prove those charges. So hey, why don't we get her on lying to the FBI? She got 6 months in prison. I mean, that's no
Well,
joke.
also since we're doing the infamous career of James Comey, he's the one, and I can remember it like it was yesterday. Hillary Clinton's server, okay, and the head of the FBI cleared her. Now let's step back, everyone. That's not what the FBI does. The Justice Department decides that,
That has to be one
not
of
the
the
head of the FBI.
that has to be one of the most bizarre news
Bizarre things that I
news
remember
conferences
watching
ever.
it. It was just like you've got to be kidding. You're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
going to
exactly.
do
I think,
this.
yeah, exactly. I felt the same way. I was watching it live, and like, I was kind of my mouth was kind of open. Why is the FBI director talking like this? I mean, I've never seen anything like this. Well, I don't think we can make this case, but I mean, we could probably try to make this case. Who are you to say what cases you could make or you can't make? I
It's
mean,
called the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
right.
Stress on investigation.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's
They're
right.
not prosecutors.
No, no, that's exactly. But of course, he did that, and that shows his dumbness because the Attorney General didn't want to touch it. I forgot her name now. Obama's Attorney General, very undistinguished woman.
Yeah, the one that met Clinton on the tarmac,
Exactly the woman who met Clinton on the tarmac.
which they talked about their grandchildren. Okay.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Just as Jim Comey was going to present his evidence to the Attorney General.
That's right.
Coincidence.
That's exactly. But she didn't want to touch it, so she said, "Do you want to do it?" Yeah, sure, I'll do it. I mean, anybody else with even the slightest common sense, I don't think I'm going to do it. Why don't you
Yeah,
ask your
talk
deputy
about a
to do
guy
it?
grabbing the flag and leading the parade.
Right,
That was
right.
always him. That was always him.
That's right. That's it. That's right. Um, and so this is this remarkable thing of the media now rushing to oh.
What about no one's above the law?
Exactly. No one's about. Oh no, of course. This is just Trump is just simply taking revenge. So this is entirely political. This is how many years did they prosecute Trump? That which and the media were happy with this. They were clapping their hands with glee with all of those ridiculous. Those four separate sets of indictments, plus that whole ridiculous real estate fraud case that was brought in New York. Plus those ridiculous lawsuits by a woman claiming that he had assaulted her 30 years earlier. All of that. And the media were happy with this. They didn't think this is politically inspired. No, no, this was an attempt by Democrats in order just to destroy and impoverish Trump. But now suddenly, oh, you can't abuse the justice
Well,
system in this way.
this goes back. I guess it was in July when Tulsi Gabbard came out, slowly kind of drip feeding us
Right.
about the machinations of the Obama administration and ginning up the Russia hoax. And you and I had a very long conversation on it because my first reaction is kind of dubious because how do you separate political maneuvering, political dirty tricks,
Right.
and something that's illegal? Those are two different realms.
Right.
And when Obama lowered the threshold for people to have access to classified information, is that illegal? No, he's the president of the United States. He has the right to
Right.
do it. Now,
Exactly.
the predicate for doing that was malicious.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, but it wasn't illegal.
Right.
Okay, now lying to Congress, well, it's almost kind of a avocation for people in Washington to lie. Okay, now Well, everybody else lied, so why aren't you leaving Jim Comey alone? I think I can say this for sure. No, we should prosecute everyone, not just one. Okay.
Either
And,
everyone or no one. I mean, you have to,
exactly.
yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
Well, I'm going to stand up and say no. This was done with malice and interference in the political process, which the FBI, I'm sorry, I'm still kind of green and naive. They shouldn't be doing that. Okay. And it has to stop. Now, there's plenty of things that Pam Bondi has said and done that just are it's almost beyond bizarre. But
Right.
this one's a good call. This is a good
I think it's a good call, and I hope it's the beginning of others. That there's going to be a reckoning, and that's going to be we're going to bring in Clapper, we're going to bring
Brennan.
in Brennan exactly, because what they did, it was a crime against the American people. Leave aside the crime against Trump. It's a crime against the American people. I mean, it was basically they were trying to defraud the American people. And then, of course, in a more serious way, it's a crime against humanity in that they were bringing the likelihood of an armed confrontation with Russia that much nearer because these are serious charges. This
Everything that's going on with Ukraine
right,
goes all the way back to this. They are intimately George and I warned in 2000,
right.
early 2017, when you would come on my program regularly, like as you always do. This will bleed into policy, and
Right.
it did.
Right, exactly, exactly. It was a horrific, and it just showed the sort of the nastiness, the narrow-mindedness of these people who they were ready, to destroy not just Trump and the people around Trump, but they're ready to destroy the country, destroy the world because the hysteria of 2016, 2017, this is serious stuff. I mean, you had people like Joe Scarborough coming on every day. This Russian interference, this is 9/11 and Pearl Harbor and the Kennedy assassination all rolled into one. It was more horrific than any of that. So once you get this kind of talk, who knows where
Yeah, well, on 9/11, two buildings went down and were destroyed. Another one just fell down by itself. Okay, but that's something physical. That happened. Okay, John F. Kennedy, yeah, we have a corpse after that. He died. Okay, Pearl Harbor, yes, ships were sunk, men were killed. In RussiaGate, it was all a fake.
it was exactly.
There is no
Right,
evidence.
right, right, exactly. But of course, what's amazing is all of this has now been sort of swept under the rug, and so the media presented as, oh, Trump is going after his political opponents. He's going after James Comey, and so now no one said, well, what did Comey do? How about just let's look at what Comey did? That this was a complete hoax. Well, of course, the media can't really look at it because they themselves were active and eager participants in the hoax. They gave themselves Pulitzer prizes in investigating something that didn't exist.
Well, I say what they want to do. Everybody wants absolution. That's what they want because, oh, we weren't behind that. What is it that was, I don't remember what was the case that they would, CNN. Who was the old, Zucker over there? We have his underlings on tape saying, I can't remember what the specific event was. That we're taking a break from RussiaGate, but Zucker says, tomorrow we're back on Trump and RussiaGate.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can't say that
Yeah.
they were just reporting. And I've heard that so much. Oh, it was an investigate. We were just
Right.
reporting on the investigate.
No, no.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
You gave it fuel. You were an accelerant.
That's right. Exactly. And the thing about RussiaGate, if you recall, was that it was a kind of a whack-a-mole thing because once you said, look, this Flynn thing is just all nonsense. Oh, but what about Paul Manafort? He said, well, this has nothing to do with anything. Manafort, that was in Ukraine, and he had nothing whatever to do with Russia. Okay, well, what about the meeting in Trump Tower? Said, okay, the Trump Tower meeting, that was about, that was a whole thing about, this prosecutor, this George Soros thing, and
And it was WikiLeaks, and
yeah, there
WikiLeaks.
was
I love
and you
WikiLeaks.
just kept
Okay.
going from one thing to another. Not, all these different events had no connection whatever to anything, but it was a whack-a-mole because the moment you refute this one, then you suddenly are having to refute the next thing. Oh, what about Carter Page? And he just went on and on
And
and
then
on.
you have Michael Cohen, serial liar,
Exactly.
a serious serial liar, okay? You know, shifting the narrative because it was all, mine is bigger than yours,
Right.
ego, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, that world is so
Well,
bizarre.
he was a total. I mean, he's a complete crook. I mean, he was just. I mean, he was basically stealing from his boss. I mean, he was just stealing from Trump. I mean, I mean, he's the one who was stealing from Trump, and he's the one who gets Trump convicted. Because of his own extortion scheme. I mean, it was basically a Michael Cohen's extortion scheme to get money out of Trump.
Yeah, and actually, we were supposed to believe that Trump was stealing from Trump, but no, it was Cohen that was pocketing,
Cohen.
taking the money off the table.
Exactly. That's what Cohen. It was Cohen and this porn star. They came up with this idea. How do we get money out of Trump?
Totally forgot about
Uh,
Stormy Daniels. Yeah.
Trump was convicted of 34 counts as a result of this extortion scheme cooked up by Cohen and Stormy Daniels. He was the
Yeah,
victim and he was
but see,
convicted.
but see, and this is where I think we need to kind of pull back and try to. James Comey should be
Scum.
put on trial. I mean, there's
He's
plenty
low
of
life
public
scum. Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have a prayer, I mean, if he's tried in DC, probably would walk. Okay. But this is what happens when you damage institutions to the level that they've been damaged. Okay. And I get the sense of revenge on the part of some. I would even get Trump's. Okay. Because his entire first term was distorted by that. Would it mean it would have been better? I don't know. Okay. But you can't deny the fact that it was a huge diversion from what he was, and he was elected by the people. He had a mandate. Okay.
Right.
But now, and George and I talked about this many times that if he comes back, there's going to have to be a reckoning.
Right.
And I'm torn because I don't want to see this kind of politicization going on. But it's almost kind of
It,
inevitable
it's
because
it's it,
if,
it's
if someone has to be held to account,
right. Exactly.
and he has to
There has to be
be, you
accountability.
can't say that's making politics,
Right.
okay?
There has to be accountability because if there isn't, if people can just walk away and say, well, that's all ancient history, they're going to do it again. I mean, there's no question. They would absolutely do this again, exactly the same and worse. I mean, next time it's going to be worse. I mean, if they got away with this one, they're going to do the next time it's going to be much worse. So absolutely, there has to be accountability. It's nothing to do with revenge or anything like that. It's that these people committed a crime against the American people. Comey, Brennan, Clapper, and I think Obama. But I mean, I think Obama's probably untouchable as a president. But Obama and Biden. Biden's also probably untouchable because he's just completely
Yeah.
senile now. But obviously, and that Attorney General woman whose name kind of escapes me, I think she was in on this as well. And of course, Hillary Clinton herself. She
Oh,
said,
geez, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, the more we talk about it, all the unmasking, remember
right,
that?
yeah,
Huh?
exactly.
Samantha Power. Oh,
And the power, she was in
I
this
didn't order that.
unmasking thing,
Why,
yeah.
why did you have to unmask a hundred,
Yeah,
hundred times? Oh, I'm not aware that I did that. I think she denied doing it.
yes. At first she denied, then I think she accepted, and then she said, "Well, I can't remember." But it was something like 300 unmaskings.
Who was that?
You're the
Sally, what was her name? Sally?
Yates.
That her also.
Yeah, she was
Okay.
absolutely neat. Sally Yates and Mary McCord. That was these was bad people, sinister people. And the woman who was the attorney general under Lisa Monaco. I mean, these are criminals. They're all of these people are criminals, and there has to be a reckoning. I mean, so it's nothing to do with revenge, anything like these are criminals, and they have to be brought to account. And I think Comey is an absolutely first-rate person to start with, and then we can move down to his number two, McCabe. But McCabe. I mean, his own
He got
FBI said
fired from
he
the
got
FBI,
fired. You
from
were
his own
lying.
people
Yeah,
for lying.
exactly. You were lying. He was fired.
I,
His own agency fired him.
it's a phrase that we've learned to adore for lack of candor.
That's right.
He lacked candor. Okay. Because I guess they're too stiff to say he's a liar, okay?
I know.
Because they
It's like
call us liars,
I
okay?
know.
But their own,
It's a
they
great
lack
lie, like a candor. It's like he was economical with the truth.
yes.
That's a wonderfully anodyne expression. Yes, economical with the truth. He lacked candor. If only he were a little bit more candid. Uh,
But he got his pension back
he
here.
got his
He
exact
got his back pay.
and
He
he
got
got
his pension.
the what's it called the that thing where people send money to
Oh, his GoFundMe. Yeah.
GoFundMe, and he got his huge sum, $1 million or something of GoFundMe. People felt so sorry for him. Oh, let me send my pension money to into this GoFundMe, to keep him going for just a few more weeks so that he can put food on the table. Yeah, he got his
Yeah, well,
pension and he got that
Michael,
GoFundMe money.
yeah, what happened to Michael Flynn?
Yeah,
I don't know what his condition is right now, but I mean,
yeah.
talk about, I've seen him on podcasts. He's a very interesting character. Trying to be charitable here, but he shouldn't have had to go through what he
No,
did.
that was
Okay.
yeah.
Paul Manafort, well, he's a sleazy guy, but they're all sleazy.
Sleazy
So
guy, but he didn't do it.
why are you singling out one
But but
sleazy
but
guy?
but Manafort, they never nothing that he was convicted for had anything to do with RussiaGate. I mean, it was all about real estate, taxes.
Oh, another term, process crime.
That's right. But his
Okay.
wasn't even processed. This was real estate. I mean, what the hell has any of that got to do with Russia? Real estate tax, whether he owed back taxes and whatnot. Nothing. I mean, what did any of that have to do
What
with
was his
Russia?
his colleague? I think it was Robert Gates. It was
Uh,
Gates, I know for sure,
it was
right?
Gates. Um, I don't think it was Robert Gates. I think it was Robert Gates was the defense secretary.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Wait, Mr. Gates. Okay.
exactly, Mr. Gate. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Um,
Jay, the reason why I'm saying this, it just brings back all of us hours, the tedium that we had to go through because we went through every single one. And I have to say, because I'm very disparaging of Sean Hannity, but he got it right. Okay, he got it right, and
right,
and that's the only point he has in his corner with me. He was dogged about it,
right,
and I really appreciate it.
right,
Okay,
right,
but
right.
so many people, you have to remember everyone you know, right before the election in 2016, the Clinton campaign was building
Yeah,
housing, housing next to the White House
yeah,
for their staff.
yeah, 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 yeah.
They probably already had, names on the rooms,
Right,
okay? And then she lost, and there was going to be hell to pay, and it was the entire political process that paid for
right.
it.
No,
You
no,
know,
that's right.
Donald Trump, at least for his sake, he went through the tabloid wars of the 1990s in New York. If you can survive that, you can really survive anything, okay? But it damaged his presidency. It damaged American foreign policy,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I knew you wanted to talk about this. So what did I do today? I did a quick review. All the mainstream. Oh, he's a new martyr. This is a dictator. And I just thought, oh my God.
That's
So
right.
none of these people know anything about
I
RussiaGate.
know that's exactly what you just said. Was that he's a martyr? Anything? Do you know how many people's lives he ruined? How many? I mean, he has so much power as FBI director. It was
Anita Hill.
uh,
No,
no, Anita Hill. That's different.
that's
That was
a
the
Clinton
Clarence Thomas.
accuser.
That goes back.
Okay,
Back.
I'm getting close. See, this is what happens. It's going around. I'm not conscious of it, but my brain is saying, "What is that woman's name? What is
Yeah,
that woman?"
no, it wasn't Anita Hill. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure people watching this will it'll immediately come to them. She was a very undistinguished person. I mean, it was a kind of an Obama creature. I mean, he was full. He hired all these various creatures into these positions. But she had the cunning not to deliver that news conference and left it to Comey. Yeah, I mean, but I think
Loretta.
that's it. Loretta Lynch. That's it. That's it. Yeah,
I
Loretta.
just
Well done.
saved
You got it.
myself.
Loretta. Once you said
I
Loretta,
just saved myself. I
Loretta
put
Lynch. That's it.
myself in real time. Okay, right.
That's right. Loretta Lynch. Exactly. But yeah, I mean, Comey. He ruined many people's lives. People who had no resources at all and had to fight these very process crimes. Losing all their money, their housing, their everything, their pension funds, everything, to fight these charges that Comey, handed out, like confetti. So, he of all people deserves absolutely.
Yeah, well, I didn't watch it, but Netflix made a little mini-series about
Yeah,
him.
making him, of
He
course.
cashed in on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Because the thing about him is that he's such a sanctimonious, disgusting person. I mean, it's bad enough being who he is and being the kind of person he is, but he has this sanctimonious air as if he's somehow this man of integrity. Standing up for truth. Speaking truth to power. He's a man of principle, ethics. I think didn't he get a gig as a professor of ethics at one of
All
these
of them did have
universities?
something like that. Yeah.
Or teaching an ethics course.
Peter Struck is teaching law.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just horrific. I mean, it's embarrassing. I mean, all these students, they're paying through the nose to attend these courses in college, and then they have to sit through courses by Peter Strzok and James Comey and our favorite Masha. The Masha,
The U.S.
the
ambassador to
former U.S. I was fired.
Yeah. Well, it's another case where, the Republican opposition, they just couldn't get off their stupid, lazy asses. Well, what were you doing in Ukraine? Were you looking after, some people suspect you were looking after Hunter Biden's interests at Burisma. How much contact did you have with that company? Nobody asked you these
Right.
questions.
No. That's right.
No, but we're tireless and we get low wages and
Yeah,
we're
yeah, that's right.
trying to be patriots and all that. And Donald Trump is mean to me. When Barack Obama became president, every single ambassador
Yeah, yeah,
representing the United States to every single country in the world, they were fired.
yeah. No, that's right.
Okay?
No, Johanna. I mean, she was really in Ukraine, plotting with the government in Ukraine against the critics, Western critics of Ukraine. I mean, that's what she was doing. I mean, she was basically plotting with the Ukrainian government to go after Rudy Giuliani, John Solomon, all the people who had been very critical of what had been going on in Ukraine, the Burisma and everything else. So that's what she was doing. She was plotting against people in the United States. And she pretended, well, I was fighting corruption. Any corruption. She never did anything like that. When she was asked, when she was testifying, oh, can you name me, one company that you suggested should be prosecuted? Well, let me think about that. She couldn't name one. Oh, I was fighting corruption.
Well, she wasn't. I can remember telling Jimmy Dore before everything blew up, but I told him, I said, American official and getting involved in the intricacies of Ukrainian politics and corruption will rue the
Yeah,
day because what it'll do is that the narrative was we America is there to help end corruption and bring empower civil society, democracy, all the usual nonsense.
right.
It was the reverse. It was the Ukrainianization
Yep.
of American politics. The corruption went that way. The Americans absorbed it, okay? And here we are today, okay? That's why we have this creature called Zelensky.
Yep.
He's a product of that entire process.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, George and I have not done everything that's come out in this administration about revealing RussiaGate because there's a lot of things to talk about these days.
Right.
But this is the one story I promise everyone we will stay on top of.
We
Okay,
absolutely will.
because it's emblematic. Okay, we can't. We don't have the time or the resources to do wall to wall analysis of it. There's just too many other things to talk about, but I'm not going to let this one go. And I'm glad George wanted to start out with this
Exactly.
one.
And, let's hope it's the first of many. We're on next, we'd like to see Brennan.
Well, I think, again, I already mentioned Tucker Carlson's new. I watched the first episode. It was quite good. but it's more. I got the feeling it's more of a teaser for what to expect. Okay, because it was to be honest, it was good for my taste, but it was quite nerdy, to be honest with you. Okay, but I think that's the stepping off point to go much further. Brennan has a lot to account for, a
Brennan,
lot of things. Okay, he's kind of like the Dulles of our day.
Brennan is, yeah, that's right. And I kind of, think Dulles was better than Brennan. Like, feel that, the Dulles brothers, whatever the problems were men of higher stature than Brennan.
Yeah.
But yeah, Brennan, and then I'd like to see
Yeah,
Clapper.
it's kind of an indictment of our generation. The boomers have acquitted themselves very badly, I would say. I would say. Starting with like Bill Clinton,
Right,
okay?
right.
And just lowering everything. And that's why we get Trump, okay? So, but
Well, I
Brennan's
mean,
got
Trump is a remarkable person. I think well, that's a separate. I mean,
if there's one thing, this podcast, George and I will absolutely 100% agree on is that he's a unique
he is
historian.
yeah, exactly. You can't really put him in any
I
category
agree.
as anyone
I
else.
agree.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be very difficult to compare anyone else to him
Uh,
moving forward. Okay.
no.
So anyway, Jim Comey, uh, I hope you have what do they call it in prison? Commissary, where people send you money and you can buy popcorn. You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's your canteen money that you. Yeah,
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 your canteen money.
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I've said here and over the years, I've said I can't wait to see the man in an orange jumpsuit. Well, it's possible. There's a lot ahead.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, no,
The
no, yeah,
jurisdiction, and they got to
yeah,
shop for a
yeah,
judge.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And of course, that's confident. That's classified. That's classified. That's classified. That's classified.
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah,
All right, everybody. This is Friday. We're doing a bit of a wrap here. Okay, Buddy's ready. This is the Goggle with Peter and George. We're on local, so please go to thegoggle.locals.com. I was out during this week. I'm back in good shape. I'm full of energy and fervor and fury. George and I will reconvene on Sunday. And then I missed the live stream last week. I will not miss it this coming week.
that's very good. And then the buddy says, "Yeah, that's all very nice, but fine words butter no parsnips." This is Buddy likes using these very old English expressions, meaning that's all well, fine words are fine words. Butter is butter, parsnips are parsnips, but where's the money? Where's the money filling up the tip jar? Why is that tip jar in this lowly condition?
How
I
big
can't
he
answer this
is
question.
look how big he is with these little
He's
paws.
getting very
I don't even
big.
know how he walks anymore.
So if you have any money, gold coins, bullion, Buddy always says, yeah, bullion is best. Buddy has no intention of, taking this bullion into the Bank of England. Okay, I keep the bullion. It's not going to the Bank of England. Bullion straight into the tip jar. We're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve the technology, and above all, Buddy will get to keep the bullion. So remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon.